Okay, so now you already had one programming lab. So at least now you should have an idea about how to write a program, Java program basically. So now you know the basic functionalities of Java programming language, that what are the basic syntax. So in the last class, we have already discussed about the history and fundamentals of your Java programming language. Fundamentals that are basically related to how we are basically executing a code. Like in Java, you have a compiler as well as your interpreter. Okay. And there is a concept known as your bytecode, which we are getting it after when we are going to compile our source code. Okay. Like that. So same thing, I think we have already discussed in your lab time also. So right now, what we are going to do, first of all, I'm just going to give you an idea. Even although you have already gone through about the concept about that how to write your first Java program. So over there in the last class, we have just stopped this from this topic. So this in this simple Java program, what you need to do whenever you are going to create any program, your first task is to create a class, okay? Because Java is an object-oriented programming language, so it consists of object-oriented your concepts. Like you are using the concepts of your class as well as your object, okay? So here, first thing, whenever you are creating any, writing any your first program, your first task is to create a class, and then whatever the identifier you are using it, like here I'm using hello, and then over there you have to write public static void main method, and this method is mandatory, okay, in order to execute your code. Otherwise, you will get an error, okay. So whenever you are going to write any program, first task is to create a class, then write this public static void main method, and whatever the task or whatever the questions or whatever the thing you want to perform, you can perform inside this public static void main. So right now, suppose I just want to print something. So that is why I have just written system.out.println. So in order to display some message in your machine, using Java programming language. So there is a syntax that is system.out.your println. Okay. Similarly, for your main string, so in the last class we have just discussed about what do you mean by public static void main. So public means whenever we are executing our code, okay. So first task, as I told you, is your compilation task, and second one is your which is going to be executed by your JVM. Okay. So during compilation, we always look for your syntax error. Okay. It always looks for your syntax error, not for your semantic errors. So what will happen if I'm going to make further changes in my class, or if I'm going to write something that syntax is not appropriate, then in that scenario, I will get an error where in my compilation, during compilation. But whenever I'm going, I will get some errors that are basically related to your semantic errors, which I will get it using my interpreter, means inside my using my JVM. Okay. So similarly, if you are going to, even after this lecture also, what you can do, even though if you are going to write a program, okay, and if you are going to write class hello, and if you are going to first compile this code, okay, just compile this code. So if you will see that it will compile successfully. Why it will compile successfully? Because here you are not getting any syntax error. Syntactically, you will see that your code is fine. Okay, so that is why you will not get any error. But in the case of when you are going to execute means you have a bytecode. Now you have converted into your program into your bytecode, and now you are basically executing it. Okay. So at that time, what will happen? You will get an error, and that error is basically known as your runtime error. Okay. So there are two types of error: compile time error as well as your runtime error. So compile time error, you will get it during your compilation, while your runtime you will get during your runtime. Okay. So here in this case, because during runtime your JVM. So the way JVM basically execute your code is, first of all, it will load your class file. Okay. So like here in the your this architecture, we have discussed about class loader, JVM memory, and all these things we have discussed in our last lecture. So similarly, same thing is happening over here. First of all, it will load my entire class, that is my hello class, and after that it will perform the operations in its like JVM memory, that is my Java virtual memory, machine memory. So here, first of all, it will basically look for the method area. So in the method area, it will always look for your public static void main method. Okay. So it is mandatory. That is why whenever you are going to write a program, your class should consist of, if it might be possible that in a program you might have 1, 2, 5, 10, or n number of your classes, but out of these, at least one class, your, or at most, we must not exactly, we will use the term as exactly one class should contain a main method, that is your public static void main method. Okay, exactly one, I'm not saying at least as well as at most. If you are, if in a program you have C1, C2, C3, means you have created 4 class. So out of these 4 classes, exactly at your class should contain, any one of the class should contain one your public static void main method. If all the classes are containing in a single program public static void main method, again you will get an error. Okay, because your, because there is a place, okay, there should be a place from where our JVM should start executing the code. So how it will start executing a code? Okay, like that. So that is why it will start the executing its code from public static void main. So our JVM, just think about it, it is a person who will always look for public static void main where it is located. If it is not there, then it will give you an error. Okay, that it is not runtime error, you will get it. Okay, like public static void main not found, like that. So that is why it will always look for public static void main. That is why this syntax is also very important. It doesn't mean that you will change this syntax. That is why public, why we are saying it as public, because it is an access modifier, and we always want that this particular method, okay, should be publicly accessible. It means that our JVM can easily access this method. Okay, publicly it is available. Static means or even though this method is not having any objects. Okay, so later on we are going to cover one more topic, that is your object. So right now I'm just using this term as object, even although you have used this object keyword whenever you are going to scan your runtime value. Okay, like in your lab, you are just writing scanner sc is equals to new scanner system.in. So over there, this sc is your object. Okay, so although we are using it, but we will later we will see how in memory we are basically storing this objects, and how what is an object and all these such kind of things. Okay, so although, even though if your public static void main is not containing any object, still we can basically execute this method. Okay, so that is the meaning of this static. So if we are going to remove this static, so it means now it becomes mandatory for us to have an object inside this public static void main. But for public static void main, it should be static. Okay, void means it is not going to return any value to the JVM, and main is basically the name of the method. Okay, and string args, it is basically the command line argument, which in some of the programs we will see that we are going to pass these arguments. So string, you already know that it is an data type. So it is a non-primitive data type, and args is basically the name of this variable. So you can change this the name of args, it is not going to create any problem.
Sir,
Yes.
sir, that bracket should come before that ARGS, na?
Yes, no. Actually, in Java programming language, there are multiple or several ways through which you can basically represent an array. Okay, so this args is an array. So although there are various different types, so we have already mentioned you can use this representation, you can use this representation, as well as you can use this representation, and there is a dot representation also. Okay, so you can
Got
use
it.
different types of representation in of an array. So these things we are going to cover in your array. So there is a topic array in Java programming language. So over there we are going to cover this thing. Okay. So right now just assume it like you are just using this representation. So if you are comfortable with this one, so yes, you can use this representation also. Okay. So it's up to you. And later on, so this is what we are passing the arguments during your runtime. Okay, so later on we will see it, but it is mandatory to have you have to pass some arguments. Okay, so the way we have created a method inside in our Java JVM. So what we are going to do, it is mandatory for us to pass some sort of argument. Okay, so that is why we are always writing a string args. Now, after that, in order to print the system.out.println, so this thing I'm going to explain it like but in later on. Okay, once we are going to discuss about the objects, okay, properly, then only I'm going to explain you system.out.println, so that you will be having a very better understanding in order to why we are writing system, what is out, what is println. Okay, otherwise right now you are going to just you will just mug all these things. Okay, system is a package or class like that. Okay, so I don't want like that. I just want that all of you should know that why we are writing, what is the main reason why we are writing all these syntax. Can we change this syntax or not? If yes, then why we are not why, what are the other possibilities we have? Okay, like that. So these are the different ways. So I think in your program, in your labs, you are somehow using these. You have already there are 4 programs which we have activated, and out of which in all the programs, in last 3 programs, I think you have written by your own or these methods. Okay, like public static void main. So there are different types of your the way we can basically represent a method. So these are basically known as your signature. Okay. So during method, whenever we are going to cover a method is also again a different topic. So during method, we are going to tell you about these are basically known as the signature. Okay, of that method, and what is the main utility of signature. All these things we are going to learn. Okay, like that. So these are the invalid method signatures. So you can see it over there. Here we don't have static. Okay, we have just written public void main. So that is why it is invalid. Here I haven't written public over there. So that is why you will get an error. So you can just try it at your home that or in your laptop that if you are going to make some changes, so you will get some errors like that. Okay, although even though you cannot even change the interchange the position of these void as well as static. Okay, although you can change the position of static and public. So why you can change the position of static and public? Because both of them are what your access modifier. Okay, so we are also going to talk about access modifier, no need to worry. But the way why we are basically even though we are swapping the position, why we are not getting any error? Because both of them are what your access modifier. So otherwise, if you are going to interchange the position of your void public, so you will get an error. Okay, like that. So even though if you want to use this your semicolon over here, so it's great. Even though if you don't want to write it, that is also great. Okay, you will not get any error. But after the statement, it is mandatory that you should write this semicolon. Okay, semicolon will always tell our JVM that this will be the end of the statement. Also our compiler also, because first task is our compiler. Compiler will basically look into our code. So it will check that okay, when we are going to end of this line. So once it will our compiler will see that okay, we are getting semicolon, now this is the end of the statement, like that. Okay, So one more thing which is very important, and I think you should know that our main task is that why we are using this high level language, because we want that our program should be readable. Okay, that any person can read our program or anybody can understand our code too. Okay, so that is why there are some, although even though you can use small hello over here, you will not get any error. But it is always recommended that whenever you are going to create any class, okay, so the identifier which you are going to use, like your class name, this is my class name, so the first letter should be your uppercase. Always remember this thing. Okay, or for method it should be in lowercase. So whenever we are going to discuss about method, so I will let you know about that time also, so it should be in lowercase, so that later on, right now it's a very simple program, but if we are having like 500 plus line of code, so at that time sometimes we get confused whether it is a class or it is a method. So if we have written plus means first one is a capital letter, so we can easily distinguish it. So it is for our thing. Okay, this concept, like we can, although we will not get any error if we are going to use small hello also, but it is recommended to make it for our own use. So that is why we always go for your capital letter. Okay, so this is all about our first program. I think you have already executed this thing. So if you have any question related to that, you can directly ask me. Otherwise, we are going to start our new concept. Okay, yes, any questions so far? Okay. So in between, if whenever you are facing any issue or having any question, you can directly unmute your mic and you can directly ask me a question. Okay. So now we are going to start our new means second first lecture basically. That is basically in this lecture what we are going to learn about. We are going to learn about data types, variables, variable name, operators, precedence operator, examples of operators. I think most of you are already having an idea about these operators, but there are some concepts too. Okay, in comparison to your Python programming language, if we will discuss about the internal structure of your Java or memory representation of a number in your Java programming language, so it is different, okay, in comparison to other programming language. So that is why sometimes you will see that you will get some different output. Okay, but otherwise most of the concept you will see it over there is same to even your C++ or whatever the programming language you are using. Okay, so there are two types of your data type. I think you already having or aware about these two data types. First one is your primitive data type and second one is your non-primitive data type. So in this lecture, we are going to discuss about primitive data type, not your non-primitive data type. So in primitive data type, we don't have any methods. Okay, so these are predefined data types. That is why they are known as your primitive data types. And in non-primitive primitive data types, they are basically user-defined data types. Okay, and they also consist of your methods also. Like in a string, I'm just giving you an example. Like in a string, you can have an string length len method, and there are concatenation method like that. But here in this case, in primitive data type, you don't have any method like related to int. You don't have any method like that. Okay, so we will go for your primitive data type. So as you can see it over here, so in primitive data types, for our integer number representation, we have four data types. These are your byte, short, int, and your long. So always you should remember that there are four data types that are going to represent an integer number. Okay, and for your fractional numbers, you have two data types. These are your float and your double. And the last third one is for your Boolean, if you want your true as well as your false value. And last one is your character. Okay, so you already have an idea about that part. So as you can see it over there, that each data type is basically holding some memory. So as I told you that these data type, you can map these data type as a container. Okay, so these containers are doing what? These containers are holding some values. Okay, whatever the values you are assigning. So if I'm writing int a is equals to 5, so it means this variable a is of integer data type, okay, and it is holding what, your 5 value. But whenever I'm going to write int a, so it means that it will hold how many bytes? It will hold 4 bytes of memory. Okay, automatically it will, in your memory, it will assign 4 bytes of memory to whom? The variable a. And out of these 4 bytes, what it will do? It will store the value 0, 1, 0, 1. Okay, yeah, 0, 1, 0, 1. All other bits are what, your 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, like that. Okay, so this you should know that in the memory, why we are using these data types. These data types are generally being used that how we are going to allocate the memory. So that is why, if according to your need, okay, if you want to make your program more if you want to reduce the complexity, space complexity of your program, so what you can do, you can just think about it, okay, when to use. So if you are just holding a number a is equals to 1, so why should I go for int? It's better I should go for byte, okay, because my byte can also store a is equals to 1. So it can also store this value a is equals to 1. So my byte is storing 1 byte, but if I'm going to use int, so it will store 4 byte. Okay, so I am wasting a lot of memory. You can say it like that. Okay, but this statement is valid, but it is recommended, always it is recommended to go for int data type. And I am going to tell you about why you should go for this your int data type, like that. Okay, so one thing I just want to tell you about this byte data type, how we are going to represent this your byte data type. Okay, yeah,
Sir, you are showing these data types, so are they primitive or non-primitive?
these are primitive data types.
All, sir, from byte to char.
Yeah. Your non-primitive data types are your string, your array, as well as your classes, whatever the classes and interfaces. Okay, these are your non-primitive data types. So in non-primitive data types, you have methods. Okay, in primitive data types, these are predefined data types, and their main task is only to store some value. Okay, like that. Got it? Okay. So here so right now we are discussing about only primitive data types. See, you can see it over there: byte, short, int, long, float, double, boolean, and character, so on, like that. Non-primitive are your string, array, classes, and there are interfaces also. Okay. So we are going to discuss about all these things later on. Now, as you can see it over there, my byte is of, what is the size of my byte? My byte data type. Okay, so don't get confused with byte and byte. So basically for 1 byte, that is why initially they have used. So in earlier days, they are basically using these data types like byte and short, but nowadays nobody is using byte and short. So I will tell you about that part also. So 1 byte byte data type is storing 1 byte of memory. So if I'm going to write, so first, whenever you are going to write a program, so what you do, first of all, you just write a class, and you just write whatever the thing you want to write the class name, like first program. I just write first program, and then I'm going to write public. Okay, everything should be in your small letter, public, static, void, main, string S is capital, string args. Okay, and after that, what I want, I'm just writing byte, and b is equals to, I'm just writing it as your what we call it as your 1. Let's assume I'm just writing byte b is equals to 1. So in memory, actually what is happening, I'm just telling you. So once you are going to compile a code, everything is fine, the syntax is fine, everything is okay. But once you are going to execute this code, means for during compilation, it will check, okay, this line is okay, this syntax is okay. It means each and every syntax is okay. So it will successfully compile my code. Now during so it will convert my this code into my byte code. Okay, now byte code is a kind of a optimized code, you can say, call it as. Okay, so byte code is basically an optimized code. Now during byte code, what will happen? I will use my JVM. Okay, JVM is my Java virtual machine. So JVM, as I told you, first of all, what it will do, it will look for, it will load my entire class, and it will directly go for my public static void main method. Okay, and once it will go into the public static void main method, it will execute my first line. That is my byte b is equals to 1. So for byte b is equals to 1, what it will do, because we have a memory. Okay, so you already are having an aware about what is our RAM and what is our ROM. Okay, and our hard disk and all these such kind of things. Okay, so generally whenever we are working on any program and whenever we are executing any program, so actually we are working in your random access memory. Okay, RAM, always remember. So one more thing, so this is just a basic concept which I'm just telling you. So in our, you already know that we have RAM, okay, and we have, you can call it as your hard disk. Okay, so right now, if I have one program, this program first P, okay, so right now it is in my my hard disk. Okay, like in your whatever drive you are using, D drive, C drive, or whatever the drive you are using. But once you are going to execute this code, okay, so everything, so here it is my processor. So processor will execute. So in order to execute this program, first my this program, this file will go from hard disk to my RAM. Okay, so all the programs are going to be executed inside my RAM, random access memory. And whenever everything is going to be completed successfully, again later on we are going to move back to this entire program into my hard disk. Okay, so this is the basic fundamental. I'm just telling you, I'm not going in the depth of operating system, how my operating system is executing all this process, but I'm just telling you the basic concept. Okay, like that. So what it will do, it will basically execute and it will allocate the memory. So as you can see it over there, here it is a byte. So as I told you that byte is taking, what is the size of 1 byte? Byte data type, it is 1 byte. Okay. So in 1 byte, you can see it over there. So the one byte is equals to what? How many bits? It consists of your 8 bits. Okay. It consists of your 8 bits. So what it will do, it will allocate 8 bits in the memory. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. So it will allocate 8 bits in my memory. So suppose this is my RAM. So what it will do, it will allocate this B variable inside as a byte data type over there. So because byte, 8 bits are there. Okay. Always remember, out of these 8 bits, it is a very important statement. Out of these 8 bits, the MSB, this is MSB means your most significant bit. Okay, so this MSB, your most significant bit, is always referred as your sign bit. Okay, sign bit means whether it can be either positive or it can be negative. So you already know that whenever we are working with any number or any integer or floating point numbers, so it can be positive as well as it can be negative. Okay, so that is why whenever you are getting any positive numbers, so my first bit, so how my computer will able to understand whether it is a positive number or negative number. So that is why what they have done, they have basically allotted 1 bit that will be MSB bit. Always remember, it cannot be any random bit. The MSB means your most significant bit as your sign bit. Okay, so if it is positive, so it means it is represented as 0. If it is negative, then it is basically represented as 1. Okay, so here in this case, you can see it over there. My number is positive. Okay, it is not negative, so it is positive. So that is why it is going to be stored as 0. So in the MSB point, you will see that here I will get what? 0 number over here. Okay, 0 is representing in the MSB 1, sorry, your positive number, and one is representing negative number. Always try to understand, because these concepts we are going to use, okay? Because whenever we are performing addition or your bitwise operators, which we are going to learn in later on, so over there we are basically working, we should have an idea about these, how we are basically storing a number like that. Okay, so the first one is your sign bit, and rest of your, so how many bits will remain? So one bit we have used for your sign bit, so now we have 7 bits are basically remaining. Okay, so 7 bits are remaining. So these 7 bits are basically are telling us what, these are the values. Okay, so where we can store our data. Okay, so the way we can basically store our data, actually value is basically stored using these 7 bits. So that is why the size of our byte data type is what, it should be in the range of 128 to 127. So what I want to say is that if inside, if I'm going to write byte b is equals to 128, so I will get an error. So I can directly show you using, demonstrate you using a program. Okay, so if over here, if I'm going to write byte byte, okay, so in this byte, if I'm going to write 130, suppose I'm just writing 130 over here, if I'm going to execute over here, see what error I am getting it. So you should also have an idea about that, in which scenario and what scenario we are getting what kind of error. So here you are getting incompatible types, possible lossy conversion from int to byte. Okay, so you cannot store this number in your byte data type. So that is why you are getting this error. Okay, so otherwise, if you are going to store 1, 2, 3, so it is not going to, it will not create any problem. Okay, so it will automatically, so see, it's successfully executed my program. Why? Because here it is basically coming under the range of this byte data type. So that is why here in the way, the range of your byte data type is your -28 to your positive of your positive of your 127. So how you are going to compute it? So you already know that, as I told you, that now you have 7 bits. Okay, only one bit we have already left for our sign bit. So it is not going to participate in the value part. Okay, it will only participate in your positive or negative value. So out of these 7 values, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and your 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so you can see it over there, 2 to the power 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So if you are going to add up these numbers, okay, so if you want to add up these numbers, so what you will do, you will get positive of 127. Okay, out of which, if you are going to add up for your negative number, so the one question that might ask, and that might comes into your mind is that why it is not -127 to positive of your 127. It is just because that we always consider, because we also have 0 0, all zeros. Okay, so whether we should consider as positive 0 or negative 0. Okay, otherwise what will happen, positive or negative, we will have two zeros. Okay, positive or of 0 or negative of 0. So in Java programming language, we always consider 0 in your in the negatives. Okay, generally it is not going to create any issue, I must say that, but we generally consider it in your negative range. So that is why over there, you can see it over there, we have negative of 128 over here. Okay, like that. So similarly, you have 2 bytes for your short data type. Okay, int, you have 4 data types. For long, you have 8 data types. So suppose if I'm going to ask you about that, my mobile number is 7976243300. Okay, so this is my mobile number. Okay, so even though, although if you are having any doubt or any issue related to this subject, so you can also directly contact me also. So my number is 7976243300. Okay, now what I want, that I have a variable int, mobile, MOB, and in this mobile, what I'm doing, I'm basically inserting my number 7976243300. So am I able to store this number? No. Why? Because the range, because of this range, okay? Because this range is not, because it is out of the bound, okay? So that is why for large numbers, we have long data type. So if you want to create some sort of applications, in those applications, what you are doing, you have a very large numbers. So in that scenario, what you do, you always go for long data type. Otherwise, you will get an error if you are using int data type. Again, okay, like that. So always use long data type whenever you are having very large numbers, like your mobile number as well as your Aadhaar card number, like that.
So
Okay.
I have a small doubt.
Yes.
Sir, if we use the first bit as the signed bit, then it should
Okay.
be, the range should be from minus 127 to 127, right? Why is there an extra minus one? Like, why is it from minus 128 to 127?
Okay. This is what I told you now. See, if you are going to basically execute this, see, this will be what, this is representing 1, this is 2, this is 4, this is 8, this is what your 16, 32, 64. This will become what your 127 number. Okay.
Yes.
Similarly, in the case of your negative number, you will see that you will get one, what your 127 number according to you. But it, you will have one more number, that is what, 0 0 0 0 0 0, all zeros. Okay. So where we should consider this all zeros. Okay. So in this scenario, you can directly later on after this class just compute this thing. Okay. And even in this case, if you are getting any issue, you can directly contact me, no issue. I can again explain this part. Okay.
Okay,
So
yes,
for
yes, I got that.
all the zeros, you will get this part. Okay, like that.
Yes, yes.
Okay, if you got it, that's great. Okay, so similarly, we have 8. So that is why I have just explained you for your byte. Why? Because we have only 8 bit. So you can directly check it for your int data type, long data types, like that. So that is why they have, these are the values. Okay, you will get it. Similarly, for your floating points, for your fractional numbers, you have two data types. One is your float and second one is your double. Okay. And as you can see it over there, the sizes are 4 bytes and 8 bytes. So you should remember all these size of these data types. Okay. So that in future, if you are going to use, so you should have an idea about, because you cannot remember these things. Okay. So it's very tough to remember these things. It's better that, okay, 2 bytes, so you can directly compute it if you have time like that. Okay. So the difference between float and your double is just because just based on the accuracy, your precision. Okay. Like after decimal places, it will store 6 to 7 decimal digits, while after that in your double it will store till your 15 decimal digit. And you can see it over there, the size is also 8-bit, as well as here you have 4-bit. Then you have Boolean data type. So Boolean always store only either true or false. Okay. So here you don't have 0 and 1 for true and false. Always remember, like in some programming language, you have true and false in the form of your 0 and 1. But here in Java programming language, for Boolean, if you want to check for true and false, so for true, you have to write true here. And for false, you have to write directly false. So we will go through all these examples also. Okay. And the last one is your character. Character is of your 2 bytes. Okay. And always remember, sometimes a student just get confused that how much basically our char is basically storing the space. So in char, you can directly, in char, we don't have negative numbers. Okay. We don't have negative numbers, as well as always we have like positive numbers, you can say it like that. So that is why we are our data in which we can store it is totally 2 to the power 8. Okay. It is basically totally, we are basically using all the values over here. Like, so if we are starting it from the 0, so you can directly call it like that. Okay. So we don't have any like negative numbers in the character. So there is no magnitude part in the case of your character data type. Always remember this thing. Now one statement which I have made earlier and which is very important. That's why I am very much which I just want that you should know about this part. And sometimes the student generally have no idea and they generally just write it down int over here. So what I want to say is that why I stated that always used int data type. So the reason why I said int data type is just because, see, I'm just giving you one example, okay? So you can just think about it also. I am just writing byte x is equals to 1, byte y is equals to 2. So I have used two variables, x and y, and the value of x is 1, value of y is 2. I think everything is fine. Now, after that, what I am doing is I have created a variable, okay? I have created a variable byte z is equals to x plus 5. So I have performed the addition of these two variables. These are what your x and your y. And I have performed this operation system.out.println. So always remember this system.out.println is always used for in order to print some message or display something in your runtime window. Okay. So whenever you are going to write anything inside your double inverted commas, so it will display this is a message. Okay, so if I'm going to write sum of x plus 5, so you can see it over there in my, this is my previous executed code. Okay, so this you are getting sum of x plus y. So this is whatever the message you want to display, and this plus is basically using it for the concatenation. Always remember, concatenation means it is going to hold these two strings like that. Okay, so that is why you are getting it.
Can't we use comma here?
No, you cannot use comma over here. Okay, because this is basically going to be used as in concatenation, because here you are using.
Sir, the concatenation happens without any spacing, right?
Yeah, even without spacing also. So actually this in Java, actually Java doesn't support operator overloading. Okay, operator overloading means for one operator you are using it in different like context. Only in Java programming language it will only support one operator, which will basically act as a operator overloading is your plus. Okay, because sometimes this plus is acting as a concatenation, and sometimes like here it is acting as a what your addition of two numbers. So always remember, only in Java you have only one operator which will participate in your operator overloading. Always remember, otherwise Java doesn't support operator overloading. Okay, like that. So now, so here what I am doing, yes.
Sir, I remembered in our today's lab, I used comma in place of that plus.
So let me check if you are saying that you are using comma, whether it is working or not. I think I have no idea if it is working. See, you are getting an error. Okay. You are getting an error over there. So if it is working fine, then that's great. Let me check. I will check just after that. Okay.
Okay, sir, okay.
Okay.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
So I had a question. So if instead of using concatenating a string and a byte that we have created over here, what if we just write simply int 1 plus int 2, like just straight up add x and y in the system out print? Can we do that?
What you said, instead of, you are saying that you want to perform the entire operation here inside this system.out.println.
Yes, sir. Because that will be somehow operator overloading, right? Because here it is concatenating, there it will be adding.
Yeah, see, concatenation, see how because right now we can directly infer it like whether it is a concatenation or whether it is whether it will act as a addition operator. But according to our compiler, how our compiler will interpret or how our JVM will understand whether it is whether this plus is acting as a what we call it as a concatenator or as a your addition operator. So whenever you are in the LHS side, okay, or in the RHS side, whenever you are having any string, okay, so this will act as a string. So whenever you will have any string in either in the LHS side or in the RHS side of this your plus symbol, so at that time, only at that time, your plus will act as a concatenator. While in the vice versa case, if you see in x plus y, these both x and y are what? These are your basically integer data type, or you would like your byte data type. So over there, it will act as a byte, your addition operator. But if I'm going to write it as, yes, sorry. Okay, just kindly mute your mic if you don't have any question. Okay, like that. Okay, so right now, what I just want to show you over here, and that is very important concept. Later on, we will discuss about this concatenation and all those things when we are going to cover string also. Okay, because this thing is basically related to our string. So here, right now, we are focusing upon the data type. Okay, so what I just want to tell you is that here byte x is equals to 1, byte y is equals to 2, and byte z is equals to x plus y. So according to you, if I'm going to execute this code, okay, so what output I will get, whether I will get an error or I will get an output. Okay, so you can use your chat window also if you want to use. What will be the output if I'm going to execute this code? I'm just again sharing this code to you. Just see this entire code. Is byte x is equals to 1, byte y is equals to 2, and I'm performing the summation of x plus y, and I'm storing it in the z variable. Okay, and I'm just printing this z variable in the system.out.println. So whether I will get an output or whether I will get an error.
Output, sir.
Output आएगा.
Output, yeah.
So yeah, so most of you are saying that you will get an output. So that according to you and according to our concepts also, that is great that we will get an means output. Why? Because according to us that a byte can store 7 bits of data. So you already know that range is minus 128 to minus 127, and here our range, our value which we are basically assigning over here in our z data type is what? Your 3. But if we are going to execute this code, so you can see it over there, we are getting an error. Okay, we are getting an error, and why we are getting an error, I will tell you. And this concept is very important. That is why I'm telling you this part.
We need to typecast it.
Yeah. Then why we need to typecast it? Okay, you can see that it is 1, it is 2, both are your byte data type. And now you can solve this problem using typecasting, but why we are doing it? Okay, so in Java, whenever you are performing any operator, okay, or any operation, any arithmetic or whatever the operations, subtraction, multiplication, division operation, so it will always call a function intrinsically, okay, related to your data type. And that operation is basically int max of, always remember the function, it will always call for max of int comma data type of your x comma data type of your y. Okay, always remember. So we are not writing, we haven't written this code, but in Java intrinsically, whenever you are going to compute something, whenever you are performing any operation here, so automatically what it will do, it will automatically compute means process, or you can say that call this function. And this function is doing what? Maximum of int. Int is by default whenever you are using any data type, or sorry, any operation you are performing. Data type of x, data type of y. So here you can see it over there. The int comma data type of x is what? Byte. Data type of y is what? Your byte. So both your int, here you will get byte. Okay, I'm just writing it. What you will get it from this. Over there you will get byte, and again you will get over here, that is what your byte is. So out of these 3, your data type, which one is having the highest, you can say that memory, or like that, or the data limit. Means memory is basically related to your data.
Integer.
That is your integer.
INT.
Okay. Yeah. So that is why it will return this into as your int, and this entire number which you are getting it as 3. Okay. It will store it into your 4 byte. That is in your 32-bit data number. Okay. Now you have a 32-bit number that you can directly infer it like 0000 8 times. I'm not counting the number of zeros. So you can see it like this, 101, something like that. Okay. So these are, let's assume these are 32-bit numbers. And now I have basically declare one variable, this z, and this z is of what your byte data type, and it can store only 8 8 basically bits. Okay. Now can we store this 32-bit into your 8-bit? No, we cannot. So that is why we are getting our first, that is why we are getting an error, that possible lossy conversion from int to byte. So although otherwise what will happen, that is why most of the time, even earlier days also, whenever I used to write the code, so I just thought that from where we are getting this, I'm getting this int. Okay, I haven't written any int over here, but why I'm getting it? So that is the main reason behind that. So always try to understand. Okay.
Can you please explain it again?
Okay. Whenever you are performing any operation, okay, any computation like your addition, subtraction, like that. Okay. So our Java, inside our Java, you can call it as, it will call a function. Okay. And in that function, by default, it will have int. Or you can say that for this operator, this plus operator, it will write something for int. And after that, it will write it down like data type of your first, whatever the first variable you have used, and data type of your second variable which you have used. Okay, like this. So you can see it over there, maximum of int comma data type of x, data type of y. So int comma byte. So what you will get in return, you will get int over here, because we are looking for maximum. Okay, like that. Similarly, what I want to say is that suppose this one is long. Okay, this one is long, and second one is byte, third one is again byte, let's assume. So again, if we are going to execute, so what it will return, can anyone tell me?
Error ही आएगा sir.
Oh, it will give you an error, that is okay. But here this RHS
from
will
long
give you
to
which
byte.
data type? Huh?
From long to byte.
Yeah. Here you will get an error. So let's check what error you are getting it over there. See, possible lossy conversion from long to byte. Okay, why you are getting it? Because max of int data type of x, data type of y, and here data type of x is long. So here your it will return the maximum data type. That will be your long data type. Okay, so that is why you will get an error. So always try to, whenever you are solving any or whenever you are basically solving performing any computation. So that is why I said earlier that it is always recommended to use int. Why I said? Because whenever you are performing int operation, so otherwise what you need to do, like one student has said that you have to perform typecasting. Okay. So I'm not using this concept right now because some of you are not aware about typecasting. So that is why I'm not using it. But the solution is typecasting. But still, we are performing typecasting over here. So why we should do that thing? Okay. So for simple small program, that is okay. You can directly understand that thing. But if you are having a very large number of line of code, then yeah, it may create some problems like that. But the main idea, why I explain this thing, so that you should have an idea that why you are getting an error. Instead of that, what most of the student will do, they will just write int, and they will try to solve the problem. But the reason why we are getting an error is just because of this function, like that. Okay, so that is why this function is very important.
तो सर मतलब ऑपरेशंस अगर अपन अरिथमेटिक ऑपरेशंस परफॉर्म करेंगे वो तो सिर्फ इंट में ही हो सकते हैं.
Yeah, no, even though that is why I said that if you want to convert, see, ये number तुम्हारा 3 आया है, got it? If you want to typecast it, if you want to again typecast it into your byte, so you can typecast it. Yeah. So, but your question is means your whatever you have said, that it is correct that whatever the operation you are performing, whenever you are using any operator or whatever the functions you are performing, by default, you at least you will get int data type. At least, like here in this case, you are getting long, but yeah, sometimes you will get at least you will get what your int data type.
Yes.
Okay, like that. So always remember this thing. This thing is very important. That is why I'm always going in the like basics of this your entire Java programming language, like that. Okay. So after that, you have Boolean, true and false. That is quite simple. For your character, you know that you always get the ASCII value. So for A, you have a ASCII value 97. Always remember, okay? And for capital A, you have a ASCII value of 65. Okay, 65 value you have. So always remember, so if you have an idea about the first value or ASCII value of these, A is equals to 97, so you can directly infer it. If you are going to perform A plus 1, so it will go for 98 and so on. So we are going to solve those problems. Okay, no worries. So this is how basically we are going to, so we have an idea about data type, and now we know, I think you have already used these data types. So in Java, I think in Python, you haven't used these two data types, byte and short. Okay. But if you want to use these data, so most probably I can say you that you will use int in most of the cases and in long also. So we will in lab, we will give you one program too, okay, where you have to store your mobile number, Aadhaar card number, like that. So in that scenario, you cannot use int data type. So in that scenario, you have to use long data type. Okay, so similarly, so you know that first of all, you just write data type and then you write your variable name. So whatever the variable name you can use. Okay, so now variable name is again very important. So in the last class, I have already explained this thing. So in the case of your variable, what we generally do, okay. So just tell me whenever the time is over, so that I can stop this today's lecture.
Over.
It's over already. Okay. Okay. So
Yes,
in
sir.
the next,
Because we are having
We have a class.
yeah. Okay, no issue. So in the next class, we are going to discuss about variables, and then we are going to solve the problems. So most probably from the next class, what I'm going to do, I'm going to use one more tool, that is your Mentimeter. I think most of you have already used in your last semester also. So it is a kind of a, you can say that so that you will learn very easily, or you will also participate in that activity. Yeah. So in the yeah.
सोफा जिससे कहा था उसके पास
Yeah, Mentimeter. I think you have used Mentimeter.
रुका हुआ है ना तो
So that the website that is used for
No, you
sir,
don't
we
have
haven't
to
used it.
download it. Okay. So you just need a browser. Okay. No need to download anything like that. So from